Good evening and welcome to the October 6, 2021 regular meeting of the Holland City Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd. Peters. Here. Garcia.
Here.
Trethewey.
Here.
Arnshorst.
Here.
Corbin. Here. Hoekstra. Raymond. Mayor Box.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. We're going to begin this evening as we have for many years, first with an opening prayer, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would ask that you would join us. Please pray with me. Lord, thank you for this evening. Thank you for beautiful fall weather, and thank you for the opportunity to serve. We have each been given a charge by members of this community to lead, to be their voices, to be their ears, to be their hearts, and make decisions for them. Lord, give us ears to hear. Give us hearts to feel. Give us minds to think and voices to speak. Give us your grace. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda are our consent agenda items. These items are considered to be fairly routine and have been reviewed by council previously in our packets, and they will be enacted upon in one motion unless a member of the audience or a member of council asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed in its regular normal sequence in the regular agenda. And I will ask if anyone wants to do that in a moment, but first, Kathy, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
4A, absences excused, council members Byrd, Hoekstra, Raymond. 4B, approval of minutes, September 15th, 2021 regular meeting and September 2022-21 joint study special meeting. 4D, proposed rezoning of 170 West 22nd Street from the TNR Traditional Neighborhood Residential to the PUD Planned Unit Development District for first reading with final reading and adoption on October 20, 2021. 4E, City Attorney, Ordinance Amendment for Downtown Development Authority. Final adoption, October 20, 2021. 4F, City Clerk, claims filed against the city. 4G, Transportation Services, approve resolution for STP and CMAQ grant applications to the MACC. 4H, Transportation Services, award bid, 12th and River traffic signal installation. 4I, Transportation Services, award bid, snow melt improvements to sidewalk along River Avenue between 8th and 9th Street. 4J, Community Neighborhood Services, update Chapter 6 to reflect changes to FEMA flood insurance maps. Final adoption, October 20, 2021. 4K, Finance, August financial reports. 4L, Purchasing, declare items as surplus. 4M, Purchasing, approve police vehicle purchases. 4N, Purchasing, plumbing services for city facilities, award bid. 4O, Finance, set public hearing for Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity and Jubilee Ministries. Request to approve brownfield plan for property located at 60 East 40th Avenue, October 20, 2021. 4P, Public Safety Services, amendments to Section 18-49 of Chapter 18, parking offenses and fines. Final adoption, October 20, 2021. 4Q, Public Safety Services, National Criminal History Improvement Program grant approval. 4R, Downtown Group, Downtown Development Authority parking lot lease fee adjustment. 4S, Management Administrative Services, revocable license agreement, awning 455 Washington. 4T, Management Administrative Services, declare items as surplus, third floor furniture. 4U, Management and Administrative Services, fiscal year 2022 Strategic Plan and Business Plan, Quarterly Progress Update. 4V, Management Administrative Services, intent to create a neighborhood enterprise zone.
Thank you, Kathy. Is there any member of the audience that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed in regular order on the regular agenda? Seeing none, is there any member of council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none, what is the pleasure of council in regard to the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt agenda as presented.
Moved by Trethewey, is there support? Support by Peters. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters? Yes. Garcia?
Yes.
Trethewey?
Yes.
Arnshorst?
Yes.
Corbin? Yes. Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Next item on our agenda is public comment. At every one of our public meetings under the Open Meetings Act, we provide the opportunity for members of the public to speak to council. During our regular meetings, we allow 5 minutes per person. You'll notice that there are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. Green light means you're doing well on time. Yellow light means you have 1 minute left, and red light means that your time has expired, and you must wrap up your comments at that point. We're strict about that, so we ask that you adhere to that. Also, please note that this is one-way communication. This is an opportunity for you to speak to us. We don't answer questions at this time, and we don't engage in discussion, but if you do have a specific question that may be able to be answered, there's the likelihood that that will be followed up with a staff member. Now, having said that, is there anyone who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
I sure will. My name is Kelly Huggett, and I live at 2551 Lakeshore Drive in Fenville. I am a pediatrician and mother of 3 children who attend Black River Public School here in Holland, and we are very involved in the Holland community. And I'm here today to offer public comment.
Ma'am, you may want to move your phone a little bit farther there, away from the
sorry.
microphone. It's
Thank
giving a
you.
little static there, yes.
Sorry, guys.
It's just the phone.
I'm here today to offer public comment about the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP, which you'll soon be reviewing, because I want to make sure that it strongly and specifically prioritizes carbon emissions reduction for the sake of reversing the climate crisis. In 2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report which stated that we have only 12 years left, now actually 9, to make massive and unprecedented changes to global energy infrastructure and to limit global warming to moderate levels. Currently, we fall far short of what is required. As some of you might know, Michigan relies heavily on fossil fuels for power, resulting in greenhouse gas emissions that are more than 20% higher than the national average, a factor which is dramatic and causes increase in harmful health, environmental, and economic impacts from pollution. According to a Stanford University study, shifting to renewable energy in Michigan could create 150,000 jobs, save more than 1,700 lives per year, and save the average Michigan resident close to $11,000 each year. This brings me to my critiques of the draft proposal of the recommendations for the CEP. First, if we aim to protect the environment and achieve emission levels that align with current climate science, where is the recommendation in the proposal of a resolution to declare a climate emergency? Why are we basing 70% reduction in carbon emissions from electric production by 2030 goal on 2005 levels for an overall target of 12.25 metric tons carbon emissions per capita by 2030? Since carbon emission levels have gone down since the time the CEP was founded, to reduce 70% from our current levels would be far more aggressive than reducing 70% from the 2005 levels. If we truly aim to shift the Holland electric portfolio towards levels that align with current regulatory guidelines, why isn't there a recommendation in the draft proposal that the city direct the Planning Commission to integrate rigorous energy efficiency standards into all multifamily housing, commercial, industrial, and public building projects? The city needs to be bold enough to set new regulatory guidelines which meet the demands of the climate crisis for all types of buildings, and the SDT should be clear about recommending that, it do so. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you will very carefully consider voting to send the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP back to the strategic development team so that it can be enhanced with greater specificity around the goal of carbon emission reduction. Consider how the current plan runs the risk of falling short of prioritizing carbon emission reductions, and how because of this, we will fail to do our part as a municipality to reverse the climate crisis. Setting our goals and acting in accordance with the most up-to-date climate science can and will be accomplished if this plan prioritizes carbon emissions reduction strongly and specifically. So please make sure that it does. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Karen Zwart, and I live at 703 Grafscup Road. Hello. I am a Holland area resident, and I vote. I'm concerned about how climate change affects the vulnerable and low-income people in our community. Earlier this year, a study of 175 U.S. cities showed that people of color had higher exposures to heat than white populations. This shouldn't surprise anyone, since the urban areas where most lower-income families live have fewer trees for shade and more concrete and asphalt to absorb the sun's heat. Residents in those neighborhoods can't always afford to keep their homes air-conditioned during the summer's hottest days. Another study from California showed that people living in lower income areas were more likely to be hospitalized for respiratory issues when heat waves coincided with elevated pollution levels. Again, no surprises here, since low-income communities tend to be located near major highways and industrial districts where air quality is less healthy than in the quieter, tree-lined suburban neighborhoods. Some cities in Michigan and other states have climate change action plans that include provisions for their low-income residents, like help with energy bills and tree planting projects along busy streets. Washtenaw County has a weatherization assistance program that helps people on lower fixed incomes improve their home's insulation and heating and cooling efficiencies, so they're not having to choose between paying their utility bill or buying food and medicine. It's pretty obvious from this year's weather patterns that our climate is becoming more unstable and unpredictable. Climate change isn't coming, it's here. We now have to adapt to survive, a task that's easier for higher income individuals and families. We need to think about policies that protect our most vulnerable citizens where they live and work, now and in the future. That's why I support the Holland Climate Collaborative's efforts to reduce every Holland resident's greenhouse gas emissions by 50% every 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then the woman in the back in the white, please. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Molly Huggett, and my address is 2551 Lakeshore Drive. So I'm 12 years old and in 7th grade at Black River Public School here in Holland. I'm here today to offer public comment about the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP, which you'll soon be reviewing, because I want to make sure it strongly and specifically prioritizes carbon emission reduction and enforces the public accountability necessary to meet and maintain numerical goals. A while back, I wrote a letter to the editor for the Holland Sentinel paper. In that, I shared these words, quote, "I'm happy that I get to live in Holland because I think our community is awesome, but I'm worried because Holland isn't preparing itself for something that is really important, climate change. I'm a kid, and so I'm going to have to deal with the worst consequences of climate change when they come about in the next 10 to 20 years. That's not that far away. In fact, I will be 26 years old 15 years from now, so I'll still be young with my whole life ahead of me. If we don't all work together to make a plan for reversing Holland's contribution to the climate crisis, which is threatening mine and my friends' lives, that future won't be so bright. It is really hard to be a kid and to know that according to science, in 10 years, if we haven't done our part to cut emissions by at least 50%, then kids like me have to worry about issues the previous generation of Hollanders wouldn't have to deal with, including frequent climate disasters, unsafe drinking water, health issues from polluted air, energy shortages, the extinction of beloved animals, a shortage of trees, lack of access to healthy food, and much more. Even though I'm young, I know that change takes a long time. People aren't like a ship which moves with the tide. Helping people and companies change habits is like herding cats. And that's what makes accountability so important. The SDT needs to add specific recommendations for methodologies about what accountability will look like for residential and commercial customers. The public transportation system, the city, as it works toward offsetting the carbon emissions of all city buildings, and of course, HBPW. We must understand that reporting data on carbon emissions is the first step toward accountability, but also that accountability is having a wider network of measuring tools, deadlines, examinations, and regulations, which ensure that everyone is held accountable to doing their part. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you will consider voting to send the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP back to their strategic development team so that it can be enhanced with greater specificity around the goal of accountability to carbon emission reduction, because kids like me need you to act with as much specificity as possible so we can have the bright future we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may be the most eloquent 12-year-old I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Well done. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Joe Schuler. My address is 376 Hope Avenue in Holland. I'm a teacher here at a local school in Holland. I'm here today to offer comment about the draft proposal of recommendations for the Community Energy Plan, which you'll be reviewing next week. I want to make sure that the proposal strongly and specifically prioritizes clean energy for the health of all people, but especially our communities of color, who are disproportionately affected by the health concerns associated with fossil fuels. According to the Clean Air Task Force, a global organization, in much of the country, including Michigan, 1 in 5 African Americans lives within a half-mile of an oil or natural gas well. In Michigan specifically, counties with refineries are made up of 40% African American residents, despite African Americans representing only 14% of the national population, meaning that in Michigan, Black residents are disproportionately exposed to toxic air pollution released from such refineries. My main critique of the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP is that it is not sufficiently specific in identifying how clean energy will be prioritized. In the electric portfolio lever, the plan asserts no goals about what percentage of 2020 carbon emissions they aim to reduce by adding wind, solar, or distributed generation facilities. It does not even include a recommendation to work with local, Michigan-based solar or wind companies, which would bring jobs to our area. It does mention that, if clean energy is really being prioritized, then this plan should set concrete goals about clean energy. And it is not okay to wait and make the CEP steering committee figure out what these goals should be. It is perfectly realistic to expect the strategic development team to be able to look at the data we already have of Holland's carbon emissions from 2020 and set a target. The plan's current wording is, quote, achieve 70% reduction from 2005 levels in carbon emissions from electric production by 2030, unquote. Why are we using 16-year-old benchmarks to inform vague decisions about the electricity production in the immediate future? I repeat, it is not too much to ask of the strategic development team to examine the climate science their plan says it wants to align with and set a target using a modern benchmark. The current phrasing would also mean that efficiency upgrades to the BPW natural gas power plant would meet the clean energy criteria. Natural gas is not and will never be classified as clean energy. Viewed through the lens of communities of colors, reducing our dependence on fossil fuels eliminates the wells and refineries that release toxins into our environment, which, again, disproportionately impact people of color in our community. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you will carefully consider my request that you vote to send the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP back to the strategic development team so that it can be enhanced with greater specificity around the goals of clean energy and electricity production. Please consider how the current plan fails to prioritize clean energy because of its vagueness, and how because of this, the lives and health of all people, but especially communities of color here in Holland and across the nation, will continue to be put at risk. This can and will be addressed if the plan specifically prioritizes clean energy. Please do not finalize the plan until it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Hannah Huggett, 2551 Lakeshore Drive. Hi, my name is Hannah Huggett. I'm 16 years old and I'm a student representative on the Sustainability Committee and Sustainable Educational Advisory Group, as well as the Police Community Relations Board here in Holland. I'm here today to offer public comment about the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP, which, as has been mentioned, you'll be reviewing next week. I want to make sure that it strongly and specifically prioritizes clean energy and makes renewable energy and carbon emission mitigation available to people of all socioeconomic classes. Clean energy is important to me because it is healthier for our natural environment, poses little to no risk to public health, unlike the process of deriving energy from fossil fuels, and, when incentivized properly, it can help low-income and high-income communities alike to feel they are contributing as consumers to helping the city reduce its carbon emissions. The first lever of the proposal, the electric emissions portfolio, describes leveraging the home energy retrofit program to enable the installation of residential photovoltaic or solar systems through multiple local contractors. Similarly, a target of the building energy consumption lever discusses achieving a 10% reduction from 2020 levels of electricity consumption in each consumer class by 2030. And in the transportation lever, it discusses encouraging people to buy electric cars. My critique of the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP is that, in the aforementioned ways, it is only speaking to those who are wealthy enough to make major investments in the home energy retrofit program and electric cars. It does not speak to families living from paycheck to paycheck. But imagine, what if the SDT revised the proposal to get a bit more specific about making these solutions accessible to lower income communities? For example, what if the SDT added a recommendation that the city allocate and develop a budget for families of a certain income level to gain free or reduced access to the home energy retrofit program services? Another good suggestion that is already included in the proposal but very much needs to be clarified is to establish with the state of Michigan a green revolving loan fund, which is an internal capital pool dedicated to funding energy efficiency, renewable energy, and/or sustainability projects. The SDT could write more specifically about what they imagine the Green Revolving Loan Fund could look like and who it would actually include. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you will carefully consider voting to send the draft proposal of recommendations for the CEP back to the Strategic Development Team so that it can be enhanced with greater specificity around the goal of clean energy. Consider how the current plan runs the risk of falling far short of prioritizing clean energy because of how the home energy retrofit and transportation's emissions solutions aren't as accessible to lower income communities. Please make sure this plan prioritizes clean energy strongly, specifically, and equitably. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Steve DeYoung, and I live at 1028 Richland Court here in Holland. I didn't realize I would be beating a drum, but here we go. For the last 15 years, I've had the privilege of working with Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity. In 2012, Lakeshore partnered with the city on a pilot program that became the Home Energy Retrofit Program. 4 Habitat homeowners whose homes were built prior to 2000 received $38,000 in energy efficiency improvements. Half of that amount was covered by BPW, city funding, and other rebates. The remainder was loaned to the homeowners and is being repaid in their mortgages. Habitat knows that making homes efficient saves homeowners energy in the long run. I also have the privilege of serving on the city's Neighborhood Improvement Committee. In the past year, the committee has been working on a matrix to assess what makes flourishing neighborhoods. We've identified 6 features of flourishing neighborhoods and are working on metrics for measuring these qualities. One of the qualities is diversity. I quote from our draft. Diversity. The neighborhood both welcomes and exhibits diversity, socioeconomic, race, ethnicity, among its residents and visitors. An assortment of housing types is present such that suitable and affordable housing options are available for a range of household sizes, configuration, and income levels. By now, I believe you all are familiar with the term ALICE. We know nearly 40% of Ottawa County falls in or below the ALICE threshold. Keeping our neighborhoods and our current neighbors flourishing means we need to invest in these ALICE households. Whether they own a home or rent, they are the least able to afford energy efficiency improvements, yet they are probably more likely to live in an energy inefficient dwelling and pay a larger portion of their income on utilities than the rest of us do. As Council prepares to discuss the strategic development team recommendations, I encourage you to take a hard look at where in those proposals we can most effectively assist our ALICE neighbors. You will see in the report that key lever 2, building energy consumption with a goal to reduce carbon emissions in the built environment, has some great targets and strategies. But ALICE households can't participate in electrification and energy reduction without our help. Key lever 5, carbon offsets, may ease some of our consciences, but basically offsets reimburses others for the work that we should be doing locally. Before jumping and looking at lever 5, carbon offsets, please consider investing more in our community by increasing funding and lowering the qualifications of ongoing programs like the Home Energy Retrofit program, or explore investments in city-owned solar projects like Ann Arbor has done. Finally, consider creating offsets and RECs before purchasing them somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Mr. Trethewey.
Mr. Mayor, please let the record show that Councilmember Byrd joined us at 6:14.
Welcome, Quincy. Next item on the agenda, special presentations and recognitions from the mayor or council or city manager. And I have 2 different proclamations this evening. The first one is in regard to somebody who's known by all of us at this dais, Gary Stevens. I've had the opportunity to be across the table and microphone to microphone with Gary on many different occasions, and this is definitely a day for celebration in regard to Gary. My proclamation: whereas Detroit native Gary Ratsky, better known by his on-air name Gary Stevens, marks his 20th anniversary at WHTC on October 15, 2021. And whereas Gary Stevens has long been a fan of Michigan sports, Gary was a regular at Tiger Stadium while growing up in Detroit and during his professional life. In 1975, as junior usher at Tiger Stadium, he got to know the legendary voice of the Tigers, Ernie Harwell. The two stayed in touch for the rest of Harwell's life, even after Gary moved from Detroit to Saginaw, Lansing, and eventually here to Holland. And whereas Gary Stevens' May 5th, 2010 tribute to Ernie Harwell won the Michigan Association of Broadcasters 2011 Best in Category for Broadcast Excellence Award, which honors exceptional content, presentation, and production in radio programming. One of 4 such MAB awards Gary has earned since arriving at WHTC AM/FM. And whereas Gary Stevens has been WHTC's morning news show host since 2015, and in 2019, Gary took over WHTC's midday show and the iconic and historic Talk of the Town radio show. Gary Stevens is just the 4th host in the show's 62-year history. Gary continues the legacy that founding host Bill Gargano began in 1959 and carries forward longtime host Juke Vanoss's goal of creating a lively broadcast with a sense that you're chatting over the fence with a neighbor. And whereas Gary Stevens is married to fellow sports fan Holly, a former food service manager for Davenport University's Caledonia campus, and both are active members of Celebration Bible Church. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and the members of the Holland City Council, proclaim that the City of Holland will observe October 15, 2021 as a day to celebrate Gary Stevens' 20th anniversary with WHTC for the contributions that Gary has made to the City of Holland community through his work at WHTC that includes hosting the morning news, the midday show, and Talk of the Town. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland, the 6th day of October, 2021, Mayor Nathan Box. Congratulations, Gary.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And my second proclamation this evening is in regard to National Hispanic Heritage Month here in Holland. Whereas during National Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize that Hispanic heritage is American heritage. It permeates every aspect of our community life: our screens, our music, our books, our commerce, and our dinner tables. And whereas the contributions of Hispanics, Latinos, and those Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America have been recognized and celebrated nationally and here in Holland during National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15 to October 15 for over 50 years. And whereas the 2020 census reports that Michigan has an estimated 525,972 Hispanic population, the City of Holland is home to the second largest Hispanic population in the state. Our Hispanic and Latino brothers and sisters, friends, neighbors, and coworkers currently make up nearly 24.3% of our local community and 18.5% of the American population. And whereas we benefit from the many contributions of Hispanic healthcare professionals, educators, agricultural workers, community leaders, factory workers, pastors, business owners, public service workers, service industry personnel, volunteers, and private citizens. And whereas, as far back as the Revolution, Latinos in the United States have courageously served in our military and American war efforts, and whereas more than 18 members of the Hispanic community currently serve on our city boards and commissions volunteering to help shape the future of Holland, and whereas Latin Americans United for Progress, a driving force to change the community of Holland since 1964, is highlighted by the Holland Museum exhibition United for Progress, the LaHoop story, now through January 17, 2022, and whereas the City of Holland joins other communities across our nation in honoring the many ways the Hispanic community contributes to our common goals in working together toward a stronger and more inclusive future and a more prosperous America for all. And whereas we encourage everyone to explore our country's Hispanic heritage by participating in Hispanic festivals and celebrations, reading Hispanic authors, viewing Latinx films, dining at Hispanic-owned restaurants, and shopping in Hispanic-owned businesses, not just during Hispanic Heritage Month, but throughout the year. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15 to October 15, 2021, Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Holland, and encourage residents to participate in Hispanic Heritage Month programming throughout our city. I encourage our residents to share in this annual tribute by learning and celebrating the generations of Hispanic and Latino Americans who have influenced and enriched our community. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland, the 6th day of October, 2021. Mayor Nathan Box. It's a, needless to say, huge part of our community. And Raul, you're one of those. 18. I was surprised it was only 18. I want to beef those numbers up if we can. Yes. Next item on our agenda, special order of the day, public hearings, transportation services, 10th Street snowmelt assessment roll, final assessment roll. Mr. Van Beek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I think we've made some comments about this, that this used to be the 4-step process. I think this is the 3rd step of the 3-step process. We can go into detail and presentation on all of them. Mr. Van Dyken, who has covered a lot of this, is not here tonight, but the people that do the real work, Kara and Amy, are here in the audience. What I will just kind of outline for you all, though, remember, this is the step where you're actually taking final action on approving the roll for these 4 individual items that are all then allocated for various services that primarily happen again in our downtown area. You do have to take action on these items individually, and I will leave it to your request and discretion as to if you would like Amy and Kara on each one to come up and give a representation on this process. They're happy to do that. Otherwise, the recommendation is in front of you for all these items. And again, they're public hearings.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Trethui was just explaining to me that you were giving us the explanation in regard to B, C, and D, even though we have A first, which is the snow melted. Well, no, snow melt assessment rolls would be part of this as well, right?
Yeah, there's. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. This first one, I just rolled it all together. This first one is for a specific project, and it's probably best then to have, I apologize, to have Brian come up and give just a final outline of this particular one. Again, this has been before you a couple times already. Sorry, everyone, and Brian.
This is just one of the many reasons, Mike, why I don't want you to go anywhere. Evening, Brian.
Yes. Hey, good evening, Mayor Box and council members, members of the public. I'll be brief on this one. This is the last step in the process. As you all know, that we're nearing the final throes of our 10th Street project, and if we can, let's see here.
I had it up, Brian.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah. There's an assessment map.
That's all we have.
Got it. Okay. Got it. At any rate, along 10th Street, there's a few different locations where we have made snowmelt improvements as part of our 10th Street reconstruction project. And again, we've been working pretty closely with those property owners. There we go. Perfect. Along the route. Those areas specifically are shown in blue, and those are contiguous with existing snowmelt areas along these various spots on 10th Street. So again, before you tonight is a recommendation to finalize that roll. And then these folks, the property owners there adjacent to these public sidewalks would receive a portion of the construction amount in an assessment. They'll have the opportunity to repay that over a 10-year period or to pay that off in full at any time throughout that 10-year period. So I guess with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have. But yeah, these are the locations, and the assessment tonight is to finalize those.
All right. Any questions from council members for Brian? Nikki, you look like you're ready to.
Are the owners amenable to this?
Yeah, so they've been notified several times. So yes, I would say that we've made touches with pretty much each of these. There is one property there that's a large building. We've talked with the management of that building. And so feel pretty confident that, we've certainly done our due diligence to get everyone an opportunity to comment.
All right, great. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I will now open this for public hearing. Is there any member of the public who would like to address council in regard to this particular item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of council in regard to item 7A?
Motion to adopt recommendation.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Corbin. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Items B, C, and D, anything you want to add, Mr. Van Beek?
Yeah, can I go back and redo that?
Sure,
No.
would you run through that whole thing again?
I think everyone would appreciate me not going back. But, yes, so we have these 3 items. They all are handled procedurally very similarly. You've heard this the 3rd time this evening. Kara and Amy are here, happy to give brief presentations on each of those, and then certainly can answer any questions and go into any depth that you or anyone from the public that may have comments in the public hearing to provide more information.
All right, great, thank you. Any questions at this point for Kara, Amy, Keith? Nope, all right. Then I'm going to open the public hearing in regard to item 7B, the downtown parking operations and maintenance assessment. Is there anyone here who would like to address council in regard to item 7B? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of council?
Motion to
support 7B as presented.
Moved by Corbin,
support.
supported by Trethewey.
Well
Any
done.
discussion by council? Seeing none, oh, yes, Mr. Byrd.
The last time this came to council, I voted no on all 3 of these. I'll be voting differently this time. There was some information that I did not know through this whole process, so that changed my mind, and so I'll be supporting these. Just wanted to share that.
Great, thanks, Quincy. Anyone else? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters. Yes. Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Yes. Byrd,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Now, next item 7C, open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address council in regard to item 7C? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of council?
Support.
Resolution approving the downtown Holland Principal Shopping District Special Assessment for FY.
Whoa.
All right, is that what you wanted to support?
Support.
All right.
Yes.
Moved by Trethewey, support by Corbin. Any discussion? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Byrd,
Yes.
Peters. Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. And then one last public hearing this evening, item 7D, as in dog, downtown development, downtown snowmelt operations and maintenance assessment. Anyone from the public who would like to address the council in regard to item 7D? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of council?
I make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the annual downtown snowmelt operations and maintenance assessment rule.
Moved by Corbin, support by Garcia. Any discussion?
Shaking it up.
Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst.
Yes.
Corbin. Byrd,
Yes.
Peters. Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. I have to admit, I would not have thought that item 7 would have been the one that would have been the most entertaining so far this evening. But next item, written petitions and communications. In addition to allowing for in-person public comment during our council meetings, as a result of COVID, we established an email address, publiccomment@cityofholland.com, and we encourage residents who would like to communicate with council to use that email address. We gather those in the interim between our regular meetings. Council reviews them, and then we accept them all in one vote. We do not read them out loud here in council, but rest assured they have been read by council. And what is the pleasure of council in regard to written petitions and communications?
Motion to accept as information.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Arnshorst. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 12B1, text amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance, otherwise known as UDO. Mr. Van Beek.
You thought you were done with Udo. We have some items here that have been unanimously recommended to you from the Planning Commission. And I think with all the information, it's helpful to at least go through this information. And Tricia Dreyer has volunteered, been voluntold, has the lucky assignment of going through this detail with you, and has a PowerPoint that she's going to go through. So, Tricia, thanks for being here tonight.
Absolutely. Good evening.
And do you want to just advance there or tell me?
Good evening. Thanks for having me again tonight, and we're going to talk about UDO. This will probably be the first of several upcoming sessions where we're going to talk about UDO. So I'm going to try to run through this fairly quickly. Most of it, a lot of it's just typos, errors, and accidental omissions. We took this big thing, we tried to make it better and condense it. We forgot some stuff, we left some stuff out. But if you have questions, please stop me and I'd be happy to explain. I did have a meeting with Ron a few weeks ago where he did clarify that even if it's a typo or an error, we still have to go through the process. It has to go to Planning Commission, it has to come to you folks for 2 readings. So this is the legal process to make sure that we get everything approved the way it's supposed to be. So 39-1.6, we have a typo on the very bottom of this chart where we reference the wrong section. We would like to fix that. 2.16, we would like to add some additional language to the industrial zone district to make sure folks that are reading this ordinance recognize that many areas of the industrial zone are included in the airport overlay, which has additional restrictions that could apply to their property. We made an error when council originally approved this building height map. We had intended that the block along Michigan Avenue between 28th and 27th Streets, those buildings for future development were intended to be 4-story buildings, and we accidentally put the wrong color on the map indicating that they're 2-story buildings, so we would like to fix that. We accidentally left out some important keywords in 4.02K1. We would like to clarify that outdoor sales of seasonal merchandise is allowed, and that folks may have 20% of each yard area available for outdoor storage. So think of Ace Hardware on Lincoln Avenue is in this district, and this would apply. We don't want them to cover their entire property with merchandise for sale, as some other businesses have, and we would like them to sell seasonal items only. So snow shovels in the winter and swimming pools in the summer, but no swimming pools in the winter. We need to clarify 5.06 that if a fire access road is also a public road, there are different standards. Our sign ordinance. This was a little confusing because this section 8.04, signs allowed with a permit, we'd like to change the name to clarify that these signs require a permit because this follows right after the section that says you don't need a permit for some signs. So just a clarification to change the name. And then this is in the form-based code district in downtown Holland, where the design review board has the authority to grant a larger wall sign. If once reviewed by the DRB, they have determined that based on the size, scale, architecture features of the building, a larger sign would be more appropriate on the building. It was exactly this language previously in the old ordinance. 9.02, off-street parking. We would like to clarify that for both residential and non-residential, when we're counting parking spaces, each parking space must be independently accessible. So stacked parking spaces don't count for two, they only count for one. Just to clarify, that's always been the interpretation of the zoning administrator. We would like to make it more clear for the general public. We have some stuff in chapter 12. Chapter 12 sets forward the process for which items need to be reviewed by Planning Commission, which items need to be reviewed by Board of Appeals. And we had a DDA recommendation was inadvertently left off other approvals required in the form-based code areas downtown. We also need to adjust some dates for applications to both the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals. Those had been put in UDO as 30-day deadlines, which doesn't align. So for Planning Commission, the meetings are on Tuesday. And if we have a deadline 30 days before the meeting, it's on a Sunday every time. So it really needs to be 28 days. Same thing with Board of Appeals. It was supposed to be 21 days, indicating 3 weeks, and it wound up to be 30 days. So just some administrative housekeeping stuff there. Math, I know, crazy. Not quite sure how the original definition of a flag lot got in there, but we don't like it. So we would like to actually describe a flag lot as a lot that's created when one parcel is divided into two or more lots, and the newly created lot is situated behind another lot in its relation to a public street. So just clarifying there the definition of a flag lot. I have 2 changes. These are things that we missed, but we feel are important enough that we're back with you to request the change. The first one deals with accessory dwelling units. So we had a proposal come into staff. We sat down with the developer of a single-family home that would like to add an ADU. They had some really interesting architectural designs for the building. And as we were reviewing it, realized their architectural designs were not possible because for some reason ADUs, the average roof height was only allowed to be 12 feet. Where if you build a detached garage or a shed or some other detached accessory building, that average roof height is 16 feet. So we propose to modify the average roof height for accessory dwelling units to be the same. So no matter if someone is building a shed in their backyard, a garage, or a detached accessory dwelling unit on the first floor, let's make all accessory structures have the same average roof height.
And so just for clarification for the public's purposes, because ADUs were a point of contention, a little bit hot topic is a good way to put it. We're not talking about adding additional types of ADUs. This is only a height requirement for detached accessory dwelling units, which were allowed prior to UDO. We're just aligning the roof height of a detached accessory dwelling unit to be the same standard as a garage or a shed or another separate accessory dwelling or accessory building.
That's correct.
Okay.
Makes sense. And also that it's a max.
And it's a max.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same. Just for clarification, so I make sure I understand when I explain this to people. It's the same height requirement that we have for garages or sheds. It's not different one way or the other.
Correct.
Okay.
We would like to stop discriminating against certain types of buildings.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the final one that I have, we added into several sections. I shouldn't say added. We changed the language with the intention of clarifying residential 1 to 4 and all other uses. This is important to staff as we review fence applications, accessory building applications, driveway applications, to determine, is it a driveway or is it a parking lot? Typically for residential 1 to 4 is 1 to 4 dwelling units on a parcel. So for 1 to 4, it's a driveway, and more than 4, it's actually a parking lot. So staff was happy, and I think planning commissioners were happy with how that came out in the UDO, but then after UDO was adopted, we realized we didn't have a good definition of what actually does 1 to 4 mean. So we put it in all these places in the ordinance, but then we didn't explain what does 1 to 4 mean. So this last slide is just stating that we would like to add a definition to say that residential 1 to 4 is a parcel of land containing 1 to 4 dwelling units on that parcel, not necessarily contained in the same building. So it's a little confusing, but for example, Hope College has a couple of properties that have multiple single-family dwellings. So you might have, if you think of 13th Street and 14th Street with Hope College cottages, you can't really see the parcel lines when you're driving around, but when someone submits an application for a driveway, we need to know which standard to apply. So those with 2 single-family dwellings on one parcel are gonna fall into 1 to 4. So this is just a clarification in the definition section. And that's all I've got this time.
All right, any questions for Tricia? All right, what is the pleasure of council?
Move we accept the recommendations
Moved by,
of the text amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance as presented.
moved by Airsource. Is there support?
Support.
Is that Garcia?
Yeah.
All right. Didn't see your mouth move there. That's pretty good. Is there?
So you heard it.
Yeah, I heard it. I just couldn't tell where it was coming from. Maybe I'm old. Any discussion? Seeing none. Do we do a voice vote on this one? We should
Should
roll
be a
call.
roll call
That's
vote.
what I thought. Okay. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Arnshorst?
Yes.
Corbin? Bird?
Yes.
Peters? Garcia?
Yes.
Trifui?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Item 12E, 2.1, update Chapter 6 to reflect changes to the FEMA flood insurance maps.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, we can give more information on this. This is something that you took action on, and we're actually recommending that you disregard the first reading that we already had, and that this would have been the final reading, because when we sent the information on to Eagle at the state, they actually said, oh, actually, we need you to say it this way instead of that way. So now we are redoing the first reading, which you took action on in the consent agenda. And then we will present this for second reading at the upcoming meeting. So I think the proposal here, the recommendation is recommend that you disregard the first reading that were proposed and accept an updated draft of the Chapter 6 text amendments presented under 12E22.
All right. Any questions on that incredibly concise explanation?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask for a technical here. We're going back and approving something we've already approved. Technically, this should not, that 2.2 should not have been on the consent agenda. It should have been following this because we had not taken action yet, correct? Just for future reference. I mean, it's done is done.
Yeah, true. But I don't think that 2.2 is a different ordinance. It includes what was in 2.1. You know, what you're doing in 2.1 is basically voting not to adopt that ordinance. As far as the order of it on the consent agenda or not, I think that's up to your discretion.
Okay. Just don't want to put the cart before the horse.
But because there's overlap between the two, that just a clarification, what you're voting not to adopt is what you had on for first reading at the last meeting.
Right. You're really voting not to adopt.
Which is something we do every week.
All right, any other questions? No. What is the pleasure of council? I saw you ready there, Nikki.
Quincy?
I'm not messing with this one. It sounds
Motion to disregard the first reading of Chapter 6 text amendment that were proposed on September 15, 2021, and accept an updated draft of Chapter 6 text amendments presented under Agenda Item 12E 2.2 on October the 6th.
Well done. He does. No, he does that all right off the top of his head. He's been around here long enough. Yeah. Is there any support for that motion? Support by Garcia. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Corbin?
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters. Garcia.
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Next item, 12E 6.1, gifts. Kathy, would you please review the gifts for us?
The City Manager's Office is pleased to report the following gifts. Public Safety Services K-9 Program. Donations collected from the 2021 K-9 Golf Outing Fundraiser event held on August 13th. $26,237.55. Donations, $53,625.50. Expenses, $27,387.95. Public Safety Services, Shields of Hope, West Michigan. Donations collected from the 2021 Battle of the Badges charity softball game held on August 28, 2021. $9,895. Reliable Road Service, $500. The Insurance Group, $500. Fortress Stabilization Systems, $1,000. Allison and Greg Reifsnyder, $20. Code Blue, $500. Hut Tracking, $500. Acel Auto and Transmission Repair, $200. Junebug Photography, $100. Lighthouse Group, $100. West Michigan Plastics, $500. Central Park Grocery, $100. Bradford Company, $250. TNT Roofing, $400. Power Manufacturing, $500. International Material Control Solutions, $500. Drummond Marine, $250. Performance Plus Quick Lube, $500. Simcoe, $1,000. And various, $2,475. Public Safety Services Police Honor Guard Program, Gentex Corp., $1,500. Public Safety Services Victims Services Unit, Michigan Sheriff's Association and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, $1,190. Public Safety Services, Fire Operations in Remembrance of Firefighters Who Lost Their Lives on 9/11, Wilhelmina Steckity, $1,000. Parks and Recreation, Sal Perez Scholarship Program, cash receipts, reporting dates August 30 through September 2, 2021, $66. Parks and Recreation, Sugar Maple Tree at Van Raalte, John and Carolyn Marquis, $250. It is recommended that these donations be accepted with appreciation, credited to the appropriate account, and an expression of gratitude be forwarded to said donors.
Great, thank you, Kathy.
Wow. Motion to accept with appreciation.
Moved by Trethewey, is there support? Support by Corbin and by Byrd. Mr. Trethewey, discussion.
I have just one question, and Matt, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. You may or may not know. I'm thinking, and I stand to be corrected, but I'm thinking that hut tracking is supposed to be hut trucking.
Yes. Yep, and I have two other ones.
Just wanna put credit where credit is due.
Exactly. And under that one, the repair, I think that the E is not supposed to be capitalized. And then there's one that's Health and Human Services, and it's Health and Huma Services on the, it is the Public Safety Services Victim Services Unit, Michigan Sheriff Association, Michigan Department of Health and Huma Services, should be human.
Should be human.
Yes. Yep. Any other discussion?
But regardless, this is just awesome. Quincy and I took part in the K-9 outing, which I have done for a great number of years, and I may even be able to do it in the future. But it's just, on that specific one, the K-9s are purchased with that money. That does not take city dollars. This is where the dogs come from. There's some support that goes along from the city, but this is the main fundraiser for that. The ball game was awesome. I'm glad that was back again. It's so wonderful to see all these people in their philanthropic ways. The Sal Perez Scholarship. I don't think there's a week or every other week that goes by that we don't have something in there. It's just absolutely fantastic. So this city is wonderful. We have wonderful people in, and they're willing to give of their resources, their time, and their love for this city. So before we vote, thank you to the citizens and the community of Holland.
Well said, Mike. Well said. Any other discussion? Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 13, communications from the city manager.
It's been a while since I've had more than one or two things, so I do have a handful of things. First of all, I would like to welcome, and I know he's back here now, we have a new senior planner, and I think some of you have met him, but not everyone. So Steve Peterson. Steve joins us. He's been in the profession for a good deal of time. He's still very young, though, but he comes to us from Cascade Township, and we're very pleased to have him join us, and so that the next time you see him or the first time you see him, he's not just making a presentation to you. He certainly is here tonight, and we welcome Steve.
Welcome, Steve. I've heard great things about you. Can't wait to work with you.
Thanks. Yep. And to welcome him, he was at his desk kind of in the third floor corner there for a while, and then we immediately said, you can't keep sitting there, because we've moved everyone out of the third floor because of the project that you approved, where we're renovating that, getting new furniture and everything. So you've probably seen some additional signs here, and we've basically split up the third floor and moved them in 3 different places. Just like we had a suite that was in the training room for a while, working off folding tables and everything. Remember your third floor CNS department that is working under adverse conditions in some ways, but we know that they'll make it work. They'll continue to give the great services that they do. Everything, we're going to have to modify some processes, and there might be some bumps in the road and everything, but just so you're aware, they're doing that. And then about 3.5 months, and then we hope to have everything and move them back into their renovated space. So we're looking forward to that, but I know they're looking forward to that even more. A couple events. One that just happened, and I think some people are going to make some comments on this, so I won't say too much, but just great congratulations to the larger veteran community and our own Human Relations Commission, commission and staff on the centennial of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Just really a fantastic event yesterday. And I would strongly encourage those of you that weren't able to be there in person or see it yet, you can see the recording of it. And I would strongly encourage that. Next week, Friday, I believe it is, October 22, I think we kind of told you to hold that date, but if anyone is interested, we have a limited number of seats available yet to attend the La Hoop Gala. So, as we often do to all of you, reach out to Cinca if you have an interest in that. And then finally, I know we took action on this, but we get questions about it all the time, and for those of us at City Hall, we're really excited about being able to move forward with the traffic signal here at the corner of City Hall. Definitely an amenity that will be appreciated by all of those who are traveling across the street. We know how things go. Maybe it won't always be appreciated by the people that have to encounter an additional traffic signal, but that's how a community works. We all get along, and so I'm sure that will go well, and we're looking forward to the installation of that by the end of the year. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Van Beek. I've got appointments and communications from the mayor. I have a number of mayoral appointments this evening. The first is that I would ask council to accept the appointment to the Holland Board of Public Works for the Holland Board of Public Works public member, board member Carolyn Maloof to the Holland Energy Fund, and accept the resignation of Case Vanderlees from the Human Relations Commission effective immediately.
Make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. It's moved by Trethewey. Is there support? Support by Garcia. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. And then I also have for HIAC, and I'm looking for my list, and I'm trying to, it was here earlier. Oh, I skipped over it. That's why. I have also appointments to the Holland Youth Advisory Council, appointments and reappointments to the youth on boards and commissions. This is one of my favorite programs that the city has, getting our youth the opportunity to be involved in city operations, to see how things work. I actually had the pleasure of doing that when I was in high school, not here in Holland, but in Mount Pleasant. And it was an eye-opening experience, and yet I'm still here serving. So it's absolutely fantastic. So after rigorous review, process, and interviews, I would like to present to you the 2021-2022 Holland Youth Advisory Council and Holland Youth on Boards. Each student serving on Holland Youth Advisory Council or Youth on Boards serves as the voice of the youth to the City Council and to their respective committees and boards and commissions. This year we welcome students from Holland High School, Holland Christian High School, West Ottawa High School, and Black River High School. For the Holland Youth Advisory Core Council, Braden Griffin from West Ottawa High School for a reappointment, Eva Whiteman from Holland High School for a reappointment, Sarah Brown, West Ottawa High School, reappointment, Angela Venegas from Holland Christian High School, Charity Ehrman, West Ottawa High School, Greta Traver, Holland Christian High School, Hannah Huggett, Black River High School, Jaewoo Han, Black River High School, Leaf Bauman, Black River High School, Nicole Genzink from Holland Christian. For the Social Services Committee members, Sarah Brown, West Ottawa High School for a reappointment, Duncan Kamara Hagemeyer, Homeschool, reappointment, Sophia Yost, Black River High School, reappointment, Amelia Traver, Holland Christian High School, Lauren Adamski of West Ottawa High School. The Recreation Committee members, Braden Griffin, West Ottawa High School for a reappointment, Aiden Vandevussy, Holland High School for a reappointment, Henry Mulder, Holland High School, Sarah Schloff, Holland Christian High School, Tucker Hennigan from Black River High School, and Amelia Accardo from Holland High School. To the Environmental Committee members, Greta Van Zetten from Holland High School for a reappointment, Trenton Burgess from Holland High School for a reappointment, Eva Whiteman from Holland High School, Hannah Strayling, Holland Christian High School, Lily Johnson, Holland Christian High School, Eva Sampedro from Black River High School, Jean Raywood from Holland High School, Christoph Manderfield from Black River High School. For the Holland Youth on Boards, we have Angela Venegas from Holland Christian High School for the Human Relations Commission reappointment, Hannah Huggett, Black River High School Sustainability Committee reappointment, Greta Traver, Holland Christian High School Police Community Relations for a reappointment, Atif Usmani from Black River High School for the Police and Community Relations, Charity Ehrman, West Ottawa High School Teen Court, Ezra Van Zetten, Zeeland East High School Parks and Recreation, Hayden Bauman, Black River High School Downtown Development Authority, Jaewoo Han, Black River High School to the International Relations Commission, Leaf Bauman, Black River High School Parks and Recreation, Libby Lefebvre from Holland High School for the Teen Court, Nicole Genzink from Holland Christian High School to the Downtown Development Authority, and Yanasa Ochoa from Holland High School for Human Relations. And I present those to council for your approval.
In the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor, with one question after the second.
Do we have a second? Support. Now your question, sir.
My question and possible correction, I believe, and Matt, I'm going to look to you again. I believe Hannah Huggett is also serving on the PCR. I don't know that Mr. Usman, I'm sorry, I made an assumption there, is on that committee.
We'll go back and look and make proper adjustments.
Sure.
All right. Great. Thank you. Thanks for that. Any other discussion on this one? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And Keith, you did steal a little bit of my thunder on the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknowns. I had the opportunity to participate in that last evening. It's a wonderful program. If you weren't able to be there, it is well worth a watch. It is now online for streaming. We had the captain of the guards of the 2nd Relief Team. I'm certain I'm not saying that correctly, who was here last night and spoke and explained what it was like to be a guard at the tomb. And he surprised me because he was sitting right next to me, and I got chills just sitting next to him. But then he said it's been 50 years since he was a guard at the tomb, and I started doing math in my head. I thought he's a man who's in great shape for the age that he has to be. But really, very, very, very interesting presentation. Also, you may notice that you have in front of you little pads of paper that I saw Jack Heising was here earlier this evening from the Holland Community Aquatic Center. That is their new logo. They had a celebration open house yesterday, kind of a preview of what's to come, and they're very excited to say that the new splash pad area and some of the fitness areas and what they refer to as the public part of the building, they're looking to have much of that open by the end of January, and then they're going to turn their attention to the competitive side of the building. If you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at what they're doing at the Aquatic Center, it's going to be a great asset to this community. It's wonderful work. Much of that has been done. Part of that was done through millage, but a lot of that has been done through donations as well. They're in the home stretch of their fundraising campaign, which seems to be getting a little larger and a little larger as they get great ideas and more support and more things coming. But there's just a little bit more that they want to do to be able to get that thing across the finish line. And I encourage all of the members of the community to take a look at what's going on there, and make good use of that facility, because we are very, very blessed in this community to have a facility like that. And that is all that I have. Appointments, motions, and communications from council members. Mr. Tuthui.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have one appointment and one resignation, excuse me. Putting in the form of a motion the appointment of Charles Murray to the West Michigan Airport Authority for a partial term, said partial term expiring June 30 of 2024. Mr. Murray will replace Megan Stumbo, which leads to the acceptance of the resignation of Megan from the West Michigan Airport Authority effective August 20th of 2021.
Great. That's in the form of a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Aaron Source. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other communication from council members? Yes, Mr. Tuthui.
Yes, I do. Not as many as Keith. I've just got a couple of them. First of all, last week Friday evening, the weather was absolutely gorgeous. I saw a couple of you downtown.
You were in the cab of a fire truck.
I was.
I was very jealous.
Like I said, the weather was absolutely beautiful. One of the best parades I think we've had. Very, very well attended. It was the kickoff for Fire Prevention Week, so remember that this is Fire Prevention Week, and it should be part of life. It should be Fire Prevention Year, actually. So check your smoke detectors, check your carbon monoxide detectors, check your fire extinguishers, have a plan to get out of the house, all those nice little reminders. But it is wonderful to see all those trucks. I like the noise. I can't lie. But it's just the community involvement again, and all the camaraderie of the fire persons. Got to be PC here. The firefighters. It's just absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, we couldn't do the Civic Center thing with the training. It was a good compromise, and I'm glad the parade went on. So that was very, very successful. And I thank the hospitality of the Holland Fire Department for my transportation. The second thing being is this coming Friday and Saturday, more importantly Saturday, is the annual tulip time planting, the tulip bulb planting, window on the waterfront. I believe there is still some spots open. If you go to Tulip Time, volunteer. There's 2 shifts, one from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and one from 10 to noon. I know that all the council members will be there since it was our idea to put this together to begin with, so bring your shovels, bring your gloves. No, you don't have to bring your shovels, bring your gloves. Sweat equity out there. It's always a great time. So I expect, I'm gonna expect to see all the council members there.
They're doing it on
even some city-
Fridays this year too, so a lot of us are, so you can do it on Fridays too.
Yes, Friday too. I'm personally working both shifts on Saturday, so, which I have always done. So go to Tulip Time, volunteer, sign up for one of the 2 shifts. It's an absolutely fantastic time. And then you get to come in the spring and see your handiwork.
Yep, exactly. I'll be there on Saturday morning. I'll plant with you or next to you. We'll have a little competition. Any other communications from council members? Yes, Nikki.
Yes, as you may or may not know, November 2 is Election Day, and October 18th is the last day to register to vote if you are not already registered.
Great, yes.
Public information.
Get out there, get registered, get voting. Anyone else? Yes, Quincy.
Yes, well, one thing, Mike, I believe you forgot to state was that during the fire truck parade, we were able to showcase the new ladder truck. It was a beautiful piece of machinery.
Yep.
It was, and I waved to the guy, I said, "Nice truck." He said, "Thank you." So I thought that was.
I was riding in it, so.
You were?
Yeah, I was way on the other side. I heard him say that, actually. I got to blow the horn a couple times.
Oh, now I'm really, really jealous. That's great. That's great. Anyone else? All right, there's one more motion I would entertain at this point.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support? Support by Peters. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.